the matter closed, the evidence closed, the parties were able to make their closing arguments on October 1st, and I have taken the time since then to go through the evidence that was submitted through different witnesses' testimony, as well as the exhibits that were admitted into evidence. I'll just note that there are a lot of them, and I did go through them, and it was very helpful. I'll also note for the record that during the trial, which was conducted, it began on September 21 and then was conducted on a not all consecutive days, the 21st, 22nd, 28th, 29th, 30th, and October 1st, that each of the parties and counsel who have appeared today were present during that time, including Ms. Zayas for a majority of the time, not 100% of the time. So occasionally she did leave the proceedings, but always came back. And certainly in and that happened more in the early days than in the later days where she was more consistently present. So I'm glad for that, and that she did participate. During the trial, we also heard from a number of witnesses, including the state called Mr. Jamal McGee, Aaron Boyette, Kelsey Owens. GAL called Pauline Duke, and Ms. Zayas, Miriam Zayas, testified, and was also called by the state, but also presented her own testimony on her own behalf. And I will note just that Judge Messett, who had this case before it was transferred to me for the fact-finding hearing, did find, on the basis of a hearing that was conducted June 9th and then an order signed June 6th, that Ms. Zayas should be able to proceed without representation. At her request, she asked that she not be represented by an attorney, and that there was not a need for a guardian ad litem to be appointed to stand in Ms. Zayas' shoes. Even though there had been some question about her understanding of the proceedings, she was able to demonstrate to Judge Messett that she did understand the nature of the proceedings and the consequences involved. And I'll just say that during the course of these proceedings, that was reinforced. While there were difficult times, and there was Ms. Zayas is obviously very unhappy about these proceedings and had difficulty sometimes staying present in them because of the strong feelings that she has. I don't think there's any question that she fully understands the nature of the proceedings and the consequences given her past experience and what she has demonstrated she's been able to do during the course of these proceedings. I'll note that this fact-finding trial was initiated through the filing of a dependency petition brought by the state under RCW 13.34.0306, subsection 6, subsection C, and that is establishing that the child in this case, Amaya Colonel Zayas, alleging that she is a dependent child on the basis that she has no parent, guardian, or custodian capable of adequately caring for the child, that the child is in circumstances that constitute a danger of substantial damage to her psychological or physical development. So it was on that basis that the fact-finding trial proceeded, and it has been the state's burden to establish by a preponderance that subsection 6C is established. So getting into my findings, let me say first of all that I find that the court does have jurisdiction over both the mother, Ms. Zayas, and the child, Amaya. That really has not been disputed. They both reside in King County. Also, there is no evidence to suggest, and it is undisputed, that the child is not an Indian child that would require other conditions be met. In my review, certainly of Ms. Zayas's exhibits and what she has testified to in this case, there is no question that Ms. Zayas loves Amaya dearly, and that Amaya is a beautiful child. And I know one of the photos that Ms. Zayas presented was entitled Diva, and I think that was entirely appropriate, that it at least illustrates how Ms. Zayas feels about her daughter. That I don't know that that's Amaya's view, but she certainly has been the center of Ms. Zayas's attention, and there are many, many very touching and very tender moments and exchanges that are communicated through the exhibits that Ms. Zayas has submitted, and I found them very, very helpful. I'll also note that the evidence shows that Ms. Zayas is very smart, very capable of researching, of presenting her argument, of knowing how to find resources that are helpful to her. She is fiercely protective of her autonomy, and I respect that, and she certainly has the right to express her own views and to have strong feelings that are in opposition to those that are presented by the state and the state's witnesses. And at the base of this proceeding, there's no question that Ms. Zayas is really sick to death of the state's involvement in her life. And it's been going on for a long time, as the record shows. There have been other dependency proceedings, termination proceedings. And so that too is understandable, and that has come through with the evidence. I'll also note, however, despite Ms. Zayas's strong opposition to these proceedings, I think the evidence shows that at other times, and perhaps also currently, part of her has recognized that it has been difficult for her to provide for her children, and she has, on other occasions, really, I'm not sure what the right word is, sort of relented or stepped up, but recognized that it was appropriate to stand aside and to let other developments take over in the best interest of her children. And so, as I mentioned, there were two other children for whom there were dependency proceedings. One of them resulted in a termination. And most recently, in February, Ms. Zayas voluntarily had a child adopted through her own mechanisms that she located and carried through with, testifying to the effect that she knew she wasn't in a position to parent another infant. And so despite the strong pushback that she has exhibited during these proceedings, I do want to acknowledge that that Ms. Zayas has recognized and allowed things that she didn't want, she didn't approve of, to supersede or take priority for the lives of her children. And I that's to her credit. And I want to make sure that that is acknowledged. So moving into other findings that are based on the evidence that I heard and I reviewed, it is established that the mother has had a long history with addiction, it's been shown, started when she was 18 years old. The evidence is somewhat spotty as to how constant that has been. It's been in and out of Ms. Zayas's life, from what I can tell. She's demonstrated that she has had the ability in the past to overcome it, as she did in 2014 and 15, when there was a dependency petition also pending on behalf of Amaya when she was very young. More recently, for the purposes of these proceedings, the evidence is somewhat intermittent. There have been positive UAs since February, several of them. Ms. Zayas argues that the reports constitute false positives because of other medications she is taking and has been taking since the delivery of her child in February. The evidence is somewhat mixed on this. It's kind of hard to tell. I don't find it credible that false positives solely answer the issue of why some of the UAs are positive and some of the UAs are negative. There also have been some UA reports during this period of time from February to now that have evidence that they have been adulterated. And Ms. Zayas has testified that she knows how to clean urine samples. So, it's very difficult to draw a conclusion. But because Ms. Zayas has been taking these other medications that were prescribed to her for other reasons during the whole course of this time, and yet some days she tests positive and other days she does not, I do not conclude that she's not using. It's just difficult to know how consistently that has been happening over the last several months. But it is established that Ms. Zayas has had a history with addiction and has gone through recovery programs in the past, and that it has been at least an on-again, off-again constant in her life since she was 18. Ms. Zayas also argues that it shouldn't matter in this dependency petition because her words, I believe, are a drug is a drug, and that adults who use marijuana lawfully or use alcohol or whatever, they don't have their children taken away from them for those reasons. And there is some logic to that, But the difference is the illegality and the severity of the substance use. And I would say to Ms. Zayas that even for marijuana use or for alcohol use, if it comes to the point where it prevents the parent from being able to adequately care for the basic needs of their child, it would matter, even if it was a legal drug. And so the idea that all drugs are equivalent and that any drug use is excused in some way, it is not the law and is not persuasive here. Most concerning for me, and what is established by the evidence, is Ms. Zayas' erratic behavior over the last 6 months and demonstrated inability to consistently make good decisions on behalf of Amaya, who, as the record shows, is just 6 years old and is entirely dependent on adult supervision and care. Ms. Boyette, for example, Amaya's kindergarten teacher, testified that while school was still in session, Amaya missed a lot of school, was often late for school. She would come to school very tired, not having slept much. She would come to school hungry. She would come to school not dressed for the weather at times. And that Amaya's behavior at school was not typical of a 6-year-old, that she was emotionally fragile. She couldn't handle instruction or being asked to wait for something because another child needed attention. She would either have a strong outburst that was like a tantrum, or she would retreat to a corner where she would, hide herself and need a lot of time to be comforted and return to her ability to be with the class and interact with the class. At times, Ms. Zayas would follow up with Ms. Boyette and ask her to apologize to Amaya on behalf of the mother for something that had happened at home. And this is very concerning, that a 6-year-old would routinely, not just once in a while, but routinely come to kindergarten in this condition. And it raises very serious concerns about Ms. Zayas' ability to provide for Amaya's basic needs. This testimony was reinforced by Ms. Duke, the guardian ad litem, who is very experienced in her role, and I found her testimony to be very measured and informed. She too testified that through her interviews and investigations, she found that Ms. Zayas would involve Amaya inappropriately in adult conversations about Ms. Zayas' belief that the state had kidnapped the child, advising Amaya not to talk with adults and therefore not to share information about what her home life was like. And she also found Ms. Zayas to be erratic and unpredictable in her behavior. It's very concerning to advise a child not to talk about what goes on at home, because children are already extremely dependent, and if they have this distrust and wanting to please their parent, which obviously Amaya does, she loves her mother very much, then even to the nominal degree a child can look out for their own well-being, they're prevented from doing that because they can't even speak up and say, by the way, I'm hungry, or by the way, I wasn't able to sleep last night, or by the way, I was frightened by something that happened at home, because of this instruction that they keep secrets. And it's very concerning, particularly given the external evidence that Amaya did experience all of those things, hunger and sleeplessness and perhaps anxiety and fear about things that were happening at home. And Ms. Zayas does not, and through her testimony here, has not shown any appreciation for parenting deficits or why doing these things with Amaya is inappropriate. Those kinds of accusations have been deflected. They've been assigned to the biased and unlawful proceedings that she believes have been conducted here. It's been Ms. Zayas's opinion throughout that Amaya has been kidnapped and there have been forgeries and that there was not a shelter care hearing and that things were done based on discrimination and racism, and I don't find any of those things to be true. There was a shelter care hearing. There is an order that is signed by a pro tem judge, which is different than an elected judge, but nonetheless a judicial officer who has full authority to conduct those proceedings. This behavior was also confirmed by the testimony of Mr. McGee, who also reported his same experiences in difficulty in working with Ms. Zayas and being able to interact productively and receiving the same kind of pushback about the unlawfulness or the discriminatory nature of these proceedings. And even threatened behavior that involved him in the DCYF office where he worked, and the need to call the police because of threats that Ms. Zayas had made to the safety of the people in that office. This unpredictable behavior and not credible testimony of Ms. Zayas was part of these proceedings as well. There simply isn't any evidence to support her position that people were motivated, that there was a discriminatory motivation, that if she was African American, the outcome would be different. If she was a man, the outcome would be different. I don't find that credible at all. And Ms. Zayas has continued to very adamantly retain the position, keep the position that she will not participate in any services to try to remedy this situation when this proceeding is by its very nature, and I think this is reinforced by everyone who has participated, that the purpose of the proceeding is remedial, and that with some services and some education, that Amaya could be returned to Ms. Zayas's care and the dependency proceeding terminated. And so her strong refusal to participate again is contrary to the needs of Amaya and her own needs to have the family reconciled. And this inability to put Amaya's interests as top priority has been evidenced throughout these proceedings. I don't think there's any question that Ms. Zayas loves Amaya deeply and is very hurt and angry about all of these proceedings. As I said when I began, I think Ms. Zayas is capable of gaining new skills and of participating in services that would help her in being a more capable parent who really does both recognize and provides for Amaya's basic needs of food, shelter, security, mental health. But I find that based on the record in this case, the state has established by a preponderance of the evidence that Ms. Zayas is not capable of adequately caring for Amaya at this time, and that the child is in circumstances that constitute a danger.
Because she was hungry at school, I lose my kid? Are you kidding me?
And it's not simply hungry at school.
And you're saying the forgery didn't happen? It happened. You see it. You know Aunt Danielle doesn't work for King County. Quit playing stupid. Come on, you guys don't know that. You saying the forgery didn't happen? You're saying I'm lying about kidnapping? That was forgery.
I'm saying you're wrong. I know
Aunt Danielle was lying because that man right there told her to lie. She's a liar on everything. My daughter never came to school all hungry like that. She's never missed a single day until I gave birth, till the week I gave birth. So she's lying. She never missed any days. She's lying because he told her to. Come on now.
And it's not simply anyone.
Because she was hungry a couple of days, you take kids for that? Really? No.
Ms. Zayas, hold on just a minute. I want you to hear that it's not any one witness's testimony that I've relied on.
This is all race-based. This is completely racist. Completely 100,000%. And I can see where it's coming from. It's not you. It's her making the decision. It's him making the decision. It's not you. They're making the decision. You come up with some corny, dumb stuff like, oh, she's erratic. So what? That's still my kid, regardless.
She is your kid.
You take kids for that? You take kids because someone's erratic? You take kids because, really? I thought it was for child abuse. I thought the child had to be abused.
And the inability to provide for Amaya's basic needs constitutes a type of abuse that satisfies the dependency petition.
Child abuse has already happened. You're breaking the law by doing this. You're breaking the law.
You're entitled to your opinion, Ms. Zayas.
I'm not take children for something other than child abuse.
But these are my findings. I do find that for placement purposes, Amaya shall continue to live in licensed foster care because of the unavailability at this time. That can be changed over time if there is either
now you're gonna lose your seat. Oh darn.
If there is either a family or a person or a relative who could step in, or if through the provision of services Ms. Zayas becomes able to
say goodbye
to be reunited with Amaya with ongoing in-house services.
Away from me because I'm rude to you, or because I'm rude to them. Ooh, really? It's etiquette now? The parents' etiquette is why we keep children away from their parents? Seriously? Because I'm mad at these weirdos? I'm not supposed to be mad. I committed forgery. I'm supposed to be happy? They took my child for one dirty way, and you're okay with that?
Ms. Zayas, you don't need to be happy with this, but you need to stop to let me finish making my findings. Then I'm happy to hear more
I'm not doing anything
from you.
So I guess we'll be waiting for 2 years, and I'll let Amaya know that you guys said, you want to sell her for adoption. That's the real deal. Because that's what it is.
During Amaya's placement, she needs to be provided.
You guys are that poor. You have nothing to do that you want to rob my child of her childhood. I'm not talking to this bitch. I'm not talking to that dude. And I'm not talking to this bitch. I'm never talking to none of these motherfuckers. So I don't know why you think that what you're doing is helping. You want to make her cry more. You want to make her sad more. For what?
In which case I would ask that you mute your microphone so that I can continue with my findings. The child needs to be provided medical, dental, and counseling services, as well as basic education and nurture.
At just 5 years old, Amaya was taken from her mother's care on March 16, 2020, after a single positive drug test. In the months that followed, amid the strict COVID-19 lockdowns, the Department of Children, Youth and Families halted all in-person visits between parents and children, leaving Amaya's mother unable to touch or comfort her daughter for 4 long months. DCYF employee Julie DeCamp did not explain to Amaya why she could not go home to her mom. Confused and hurt, Amaya believed her mother simply didn't want her home and abandoned her. It would not be until June 2020, during a video visit, that Amaya's mother revealed the painful truth that Amaya had been kidnapped by CPS. This revelation shattered Amaya's world but helped her understand the reality of the situation. This mother never signed or agreed to the dependency court order. Amaya was still forced to live in foster care, where she remained until November 2022. Tragically, on July 2, 2022, Amaya endured the most severe abuse while living in a foster home. Amaya endured a traumatic brain injury followed by a 10-minute seizure that rendered her unconscious. This injury led to a diagnosis of epilepsy. Her life and health were forever altered. Her brain now today constantly struggles with seizures. Before the injury, Amaya's mother had repeatedly alerted social workers, including Julie DeCamp and Jenny Cowan, about concerns for her daughter's safety, but her warnings were ignored. When Amaya finally returned home years later, she expressed heartfelt gratitude to her mother for telling her the truth about the kidnapping. The trauma didn't end there. Amaya faced harassment at school by Rachel Puga and Julie DeCamp for 2 more years, 2022 until 2024. In April 2024, Amaya was removed from her mother's custody once again, this time because her mother lacked car insurance and did not complete a parenting course called Triple P. Now today, it has been more than a year since Amaya has seen or spoken to her mother. She is now 10 years old, and Judge Adrian McCoy will not allow any contact between the two because of this YouTube channel.
Why are you so obsessed with me? What did I do to deserve this? Why are my children so important to you? But you are not the other parent. You are a corrupt state official without any blood relation to my children. Yet all you do is think about them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Can you please explain to me why you're so obsessed with me? Why is it so important to you to destroy my life and my family? I know you don't make that much money, but you commit high crimes for your boss, operating under 0 laws. Why are you so obsessed with me? What did I do to deserve this much attention? Who sent you? Why are you so obsessed with me? I don't understand your purpose. I don't understand your goals. From what I can see, you are worthless. Unless my children you withhold. It's like you know I will come after them, so you want me to come after you. But why are you so obsessed with me? What did I ever do? How do you justify you're stalking on me? I have to be all you think about. There's no other way you'd be able to do this. No amount of money can make me do what you do for a living. But you happy stalking me, and that's highly concerning. My goal is put you in prison no matter what. Why are you so obsessed with me? hurt you, I will forever repay you by suing you repeatedly under 1983. If it gets dismissed, I will sue you again until I get your money, your assets, your home, and your income. Everything you own will be mine, and your individual capacity. You are liable for cash damages, punitive and compensatory for wasting my time. Why are you so obsessed with me? I will never understand. You are obsessed with me, as if I were a man. I am nobody special, but there you stand in my face like I am so great. Why are you so obsessed with me? I will never understand. I tried to get a restraining order, they denied it. You've manipulated many to believe what you do. Why are you so obsessed with me, is what I wanna know.